So now I want to show you guys the greatest advancement in blending since the blender was created. And you know when the blender was created? It was created about 1922. So literally it's been almost 100 years. So it took 99 years to make the blender better. You know, they basically have like the Vitamix and the Blendtec are the best-selling blenders in the whole world. And they are really good and excellent at destroying things, as evidenced, and well, the Blendtec's better than the Vitamix at destroying things, as evidenced by the Will It Blend series on YouTube right here. And Tom Dixon destroys iPhones and iPads and plungers and all kinds of crazy stuff. And these blenders can destroy things faster than anything else. And when you're destroying a plunger, that's great because you're turning to sawdust. But when you put your food in there, it is also massively destroying the nutrients, right? It is aerating the nutrients. It is oxidizing the polyphenols and the antioxidants, antioxidant vitamins in there and lowering it 2 to 3 times. So if you use the all-new Blendtec nutrient preserver, you will save your life, literally. And the reason why it's called the nutrient preserver, it's kind of like a life preserver, right? You guys know a life preserver, it's meant to save your life if you like get thrown over the ship or maybe you're drowning, right? But the nutrient preserver will preserve your nutrients so that you will have the maximum availability of the nutrients so that they go into you. You know, so I'm going to throw you guys this preserver to save your life, and now I'm going to show you guys the Blendtec nutrient preserver. This is actually being filmed before this is even available for the public, and when it is released, there will be a limited number as a first run, and then they'll expand more. So if you want one, you better buy it now. So this is a plain box. It'll come in a full color box at some point, but let's go ahead and unbox it, show you guys this whole kit you are going to get. Now, it's really cool that Blendtec invented this for their own Blendtec blenders, right? So they have the Blendtec Carafe for the Blendtec people that already own a Blendtec that have been realizing the best blender on the planet. You know, and I've actually got a factory tour yesterday to see why this is better, and I could totally prove it to you now, and I know exactly why. But they don't want to leave the Vitamix customers out, so they want you guys to be able to benefit from the technology of the nutrient preserver that they've created for their Blendtec. So they have one right here that will actually work for the Vitamix. So this is the heart of the nutrient preserver, their ultra powerful pump that is more powerful than any other pump that I've tested to date. It can raise mercury up to 22 inches. That is how strong the vacuum is. Other vacuum pumps that I've tested, you know, hand pumps might go to 8, and more powerful ones might go to maybe 17 if you're lucky. Now we're gonna show you guys this jar as it comes out. And this jar made by Blendtec, right, is the best doggone replacement craft you should buy, in my opinion, for your Vitamix, right? And this is why, right here, pulling it out, Blendtec. This is made by Blendtec, but check this out. Oh, we got a straw in here. It'll actually exactly fit on a Vitamix, which is amazing. Now, here's the thing, many of you guys don't know, like, why would you want to have a Vitamix container? I don't know how long you've owned your Vitamix. You know, I used to love the Vitamix until I started using the Blendtec nutrient preserver, and now I'm totally a Blendtec convert, and especially after coming to the factory and seeing the equipment, see the machinery, see how they actually make the motors in the USA instead of importing them from other countries and then putting them in a blender. You know, they have really powerful motors. So the Blendtec nutrient preserver solves the 2 major issues with blending. Number 1 is cavitation. And what happens is a cavity or cavern forms literally underneath your food, and the blade's spinning around and hitting air. It's not hitting your food, so things don't drop into the blade. This can happen if you're trying to blend something too thick, right? And there's many ways to solve this issue, and how Vitamix dealt with that was they actually have this container here, and in order to make it work properly, they actually use a tamper, right? Which I have used in many occasions. And the other thing they did is they actually have a narrow base at the bottom, and they actually have a star blade with 4 sides, right? And what Blendtec has done instead is they have a propeller blade inside here, and they also have a wider base at the bottom, so things more easily drop in. As a matter of fact, you could use this Blendtec container on your Vitamix to really have a food processor function without having to buy a food processor attachment, you know, that actually only works with certain models, but that's a different discussion topic. So for the home users, that's how Vitamix solved the issue with the tamper. And the challenge that happens with a tamper is that you're only supposed to ever use the tamper when you got the lid on, but how many times have you seen somebody put the tamper in without the lid, and then they basically jam it in there and they destroy the tamper, right? I've done this many times, and then you could get food harborage, and if you destroy your tamper, there's even cuts in it. Please don't use it again, guys. There could be bacteria and funky stuff thrown in there, right? And I don't think this is a good solution, and you gotta, deal with pushing stuff in, and I think the Blendtec solution is a much smarter way. Now, it is a lot more difficult to engineer and design this, and I will say, as much as I love the Vitamix and Blendtec, I will say that the Vitamix company has actually been a better marketing company, although, and that's why they are the #1 leader in blenders in the world, in the US, but Blendtec is a far, in my opinion, better engineering company because they have actually a lot better technology, more powerful motors, more powerful direct drive, better bearings that are 20 times more expensive than the standard Vitamix bearings used in the carafes. And then furthermore, for most of you guys don't know this, the home users, for commercial use, check this out. Vitamix is a good imitator. I don't think they're a great innovator personally, but this is their solution for commercial users because commercial users can't use a tamper because why? This breaks food harborage, lots of issues. So Vitamix for the commercial users came out with the carafe, and check this out. Blendtec had this one first. Vitamix came out with this, and actually if we line these up, I mean, it's almost an exact copy. they copied it. So this has a propeller blade, much like the Blendtec, and this is like the only version of the Vitamix that actually has this propeller blade. And what happened was Blendtec saw this and like, hey, Vitamix, we have a patent on this. And actually, Blend took Vitamix to court so that they could no longer sell the same carafe, which is totally crazy. And meanwhile, Blendtec is even making things better. So aside from already not having the issue of having to use a tamper, right? The second biggest problem with blending is that it destroys things, is the oxidation that occurs. Now, Blendtec does not have a solution at this time when this is being filmed, but mark my words, because Blendtec has it, guess what Vitamix is going to do now? They're going to come out with one, and I personally believe, I highly doubt, that Vitamix is going to design a better nutrient preservation system than the Blendtec already has. And plus, you can buy this today, right now. You can change your life, get 2 to 3 times higher polyphenols and antioxidants in your blend starting tomorrow. Plus, you will have better flavor, better taste, better storability. All the way around, this is the container you will want to buy. So let me go ahead and explain some of the different parts that come with this container so you could also store the food once you've basically blended in a vacuum blender to preserve the nutrients. So now I want to go over what's actually in the kit. So you have this very powerful vacuum pump, the most powerful I've tested, and then you have a few adapters, okay? And you got a couple different plugs. This is basically the full kit you're going to need. So this is the vacuum tube, so you could suck a vacuum. When you're going to suck out the bags, you get 8 bags, 4 small, 4 large. So once you do, so you can store any kind of food in here, whether it's frozen bananas or creations that you make. And more importantly, I really wanted this for you guys, is that we got these like lids, and these are 100% stainless steel lids that allow you to basically vacuum store in glass. So you can literally take this lid, and it has a removable silicone gasket, so it's very easy to clean, 100% food safe and stainless steel. That'll go on top of your jar, and then you basically use these little plugs, plug one in there, and now with the adapter kit, you can actually pull a vacuum on a jar. This is how I store all my juices and all my smoothies this way, and I get to store them for up to a week using their special vacuum pump. And it even gets better because not only now you're going to have a carafe to make total juices and smoothies, but Blendtec will include the best engineered and best nut milk and juice bag that I ever discovered or ever found. And here it is. There's basically no corners on it. There's no string to harbor different bacteria. It's nice and large. It fits big bowls. And I mean, one of the things Tom Dixon has been doing is he's been juicing actually in the vacuum system. I've never recommended juicing in a blender because I am aware and seen the studies on the oxidative damage that occurs to the food you're blending, because it is good and excellent at destroying things. It oxidizes things. We're going to do some comparisons using a traditional Vitamix and the all-new Blendtec Nutrient Preserver right on this side so that you guys can see the difference at home. So this is probably the best doggone blender that is the easiest to clean, that's going to preserve the most nutrients in the entire world, bar none. Okay, and you also get a spatula in here. You get a couple of the different lids, and you have a little dome so you could actually vacuum blend on this on the vacuum blender. You're going to have to suck a vacuum on it, and I'll show you guys how all this stuff works. Oh, and then you get a spatula, very important, right? One of the things I've hated forever is that this 4-prong blade, right? You try to get a spatula down in there. How many times have you rinsed down your good blends, your good smoothies down the sink because you can't get it all out? Man, if I stick this in there, I'm going to poke the spatula and damage it, and I just can't get around these flutes and all this stuff. But in the Blendtec, with the perfect size spatula, you could easily spatula down the sides. That also, guess what? As much as it is easier to get your smoothies and everything out, your nut butters and whatever you're doing with the special spatula, and I really wanted this to be included in the kit. You could get it almost underneath there with this because it's a, you know, wing blade. And also, guess what? This is way easier to clean than the Vitamix. Look at that, and there's no harborage points. Like, this is welded like into the jar, so you cannot or do not need to even remove the blade. It's a lot cleaner, a lot easier to clean. So when you're spraying water down in there when you're done to clean up, it comes out a lot easier than trying to get underneath this thing and clean it. So there's just so many reasons why you should be purchasing the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver. And now I want to show you guys the difference it can make by actually juicing celery traditionally, and also in the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver. So before I make celery juice in these blenders, I want to show you guys actually one important fact, right? If you guys have an old Vitamix, the handle looks like this, right? This is a jar that's made out of polycarbonate, contains BPA. I would encourage you guys to literally ditch this jar, like get rid of it and don't use it anymore. Instead, you want to get the Blendtec jar, and this is actually certified BPA safe. And that's amazing. I think this is the first company in America to have the BPA safe logo on here. They've done full testing and vetting that this is BPA safe. So amazing. So let's see, let's go ahead and get this other carafe. The newer carafe with the molded, like rubberized handle is actually the BPA free versus BPA safe, okay? Which one would you rather have? I think I'm gonna go with the BPA safe personally. So anyways, let's go ahead and juice the celery. And now I never recommend doing this in a Vitamix because you will oxidize the celery to heck, and you will see the difference. So we got celery, basically organic celery from Costco, about 20 ounces. And I want to, these are the coolest measuring cups in the whole world. This is actually the jar with the bottom still in there before they actually cut it out and actually weld in literally the blades. So I love that. So to juice the celery, super simple, super easy. You know, you should pre-cut it. And I pre-cut to about 1/2 inch, right? So we're just gonna line this up and come down all the way down and just pre-cut it. 20 ounces going in each of the blenders. And I like these handy dandy cutting boards that are flexible. We could just roll it up, dump them all in. I want you guys to save time, and honestly, vacuum blending with the Nutrient Preserver is the fastest way to achieve the most nutrients and the highest yield. Absolutely. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and cut this up to put in the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver. All right, now that we got them in there, let's see, I think I'll do these concurrently for you guys. And the easiest one to do that you don't have to pay any attention to or act upon is the Blendtec. You're going to put the lid on. Oh, and I didn't do it right, because before you put this lid on, this has to make a good solid seal. So the best thing to do is just turn on your faucet a little bit and run a little bit of water on there, right? You want to get a little bit of water that acts as kind of like an, wets the gasket a little bit, so it kind of goes on a little bit easier and comes off easier as well. Then you're going to take the vacuum dome here and put that on the top, and you're going to go ahead and take the vacuum system pump. You're going to hit the on button. Nothing to remember. There is a really cool gauge on here that tells you how much vacuum, and this will actually just pump up, and once it gets to the end here, you can actually start the blender up because it has achieved full vacuum. So as you guys can see, the lines are coming up, and we're gonna wait for that to finish up. If it's mostly empty, it's gonna take a little bit longer than if you have it all packed full. Then it'll be able to evacuate the excess oxygen in the carafe, and that is what's happening here. This is why the Blendtec nutrient preserver will preserve more nutrients, because we are removing the oxygen, all the excess oxygen out of here, and you will see the difference it makes, right? This technology originally originated in Japan, but it takes a good old American company, Blendtec, to make the technology even better, because the original vacuum blenders that I saw at the trade show many years ago only pull the vacuum right before you blend, and they would shut off, just like the Blendtec pump did, right? They are not designed to continually pull a vacuum. Now, the issue with those other vacuum blenders, and that's why this is something totally new and different than anything you guys seen before, is because, you know, we're gonna start this pump up again, and it'll continue to suck out the excess oxygen as you're blowing open the cells, and that is very critical. You know, it is said that blenders can turn produce inside out and literally make the nutrients available, but the challenge is with standard blending, traditional blending, it also oxidizes and destroys nutrients faster than anything else, all right? So we're gonna go ahead and hit this once again, have it running. We're just gonna go ahead and pulse it a few times, right? So just pulse it a little bit. This is acting like a food processor because the produce is dropping down to the side of the propeller blade and dropping in. Don't try this in a Vitamix. It will just simply not work whatsoever. Once you got it fully pulsed and it's basically pulverized into mush, and this is actually how you could use the Blendtec jar to make salsa and other items like cauliflower rice, which I do. You're then gonna go ahead and turn the blender on. And I ramp it up, slowly start slow and then go up to high. And once you get it to really high, you might need to back it off a little bit if it's glugging up and gonna hit the top. This makes cleaning much easier. And as you guys can see, we're running really good, and it's really grinding up under vacuum, pulling the air out as the fibers and all the nutrients are being exposed, because the blenders turn the nutrients inside out. Now, the other thing that's super cool about when using a vacuum is that in a Vitamix, I don't know if you know this or not, but you always want to blend the least amount of time possible so you don't damage the produce that much. When you're under vacuum, you're not damaging the produce because the oxygen is removed already. So it's not as critical to run it for as short of a time, although you shouldn't just let this run forever. All right, so once we're done, we're gonna go ahead and stop this, and you guys can see the pump is still running, and should the pump turn off, because there's a safety feature built into the pump that it'll turn off after a certain time, just double press the button again and it'll turn back on. You always wanna have the pump running when the blender is on. The challenge with other units is that it doesn't, this is the only machine that I found that will continually pull a vacuum as you're blending, and this is truly the best, right? Over on the Vitamix, let's go ahead and try to do the same technique. Because I cut the celery to the same part, we're just gonna go ahead and pulse this. So let's pulse it a little bit. Hey, it's kind of working good. It's shaving the stuff up. But check this out. If you hear the blade tone, the blade is just spinning, sitting and spinning in there like nothing's happening, and that's because of the narrow container base. Also because of the four-sided star blade that actually is good for throwing stars. But also then you need the tamper. So we're just gonna go ahead and turn this on like most of you guys do. The inconvenience of using a tamper, getting it dirty, you gotta now shove this into there. All right, so let's go ahead and turn this Vitamix off. And actually, that's the other thing. I don't know where the little plug is, so I just put my hand over, but it's like really glugging up to the top. It's making it harder to clean. Look at this. When we take this off, all the particulate underneath that top. Let's go ahead and release the vacuum on the Blendtec. Look how clean this top is. There's nothing on there, right? Oh my God. Easier to clean. You're wasting good nutrients in here, plus it's always been oxidized. The other thing that's very cool is check out the color. I'm gonna show you guys, hold this up close for you guys. Can you guys see the color difference, right? This is nice, vibrant green. It looks super cool. It's actually probably a good St. Patrick's Day color. And this is almost like a lime, like a really light green. I don't know, it doesn't look appealing. In addition, if you want, once again, you can see all the splashing up. When you pull a vacuum on the container before you blend, it actually helps keep things down in the blades without having to use a tamper, and that's why it was able to work, and it does less oxidation, so you could literally see the color difference. In addition, we actually have more celery than we had before because there's lots of oxygen injected, and that's what you're doing every revolution as this is spinning, and it doesn't spin 37,000 RPMs like some people claim. I tested it earlier. That's a different discussion. You know, it injects a lot of air. So despite running at the same speed as this guy, a lot less air just because the container makes all the difference in the world. So now let's go ahead and juice this. And the way you're going to do that is with the included bag. And I love these bags. These are my favorite nut milk bags or juice bags, if you want to call it that, in the world, because these have a nice wide opening. I don't know how many times you tried to pour stuff in one of the bags to make nut milks or whatever, and it spills all over because it's not wide enough, right? They've designed this to work with an 8-cup glass measuring cup. This happens to be by Anchor Hawking. I just put it over the top, and look at this. We could fold this down all the way around so that easily you could easily pour in, right? And what I do is I shake this up a little bit and pour it sideways. You actually have 4 pouring spouts on this, and which is also great to drink out of. I love to do that. And once you pour this all out really easily, you could tap it down if you don't want to get an extra tool out, but if you already have a spatula out like it includes with it, you could make sure you get every last bit of celery goodness. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Anthony William, the medical medium, who promotes the celery juice, right? And for the longest time, I have many videos on YouTube juicing celery, and I've never blended celery because normally when you blend celery, this is what happens, and you'll see the difference in a minute. But with the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver, this is going to be the most nutritious celery juice, bar none, that you could make in a blender. Look at this. We're going to literally milk out all the celery juice. Now, because blenders are actually more efficient at grinding up things than the juicers, right? You're exposing more surface area. You're going to get more nutrients out. And also, more importantly, get a higher yield because you're fractioning all the cell walls at the same time under vacuum, not going to significantly, by any means, damage the valuable nutrients. So once you have it pretty much wrung out, then we're going to go ahead and fold this bag over, and you can literally just wring it out, and a lot more juice is coming out. And I could sit here longer and longer and longer and longer and get this super dry, and actually my yield will be insane. My yield could be up to 90%, maybe averaging 85 to 90% yield when juicing celery in this fashion. And to remind you guys, I'd already own a juicer, which I still love my juicer. You know, some of the best juicers that I've tested will only achieve first pass through, not repressing your pulp, of course, maybe about 70 to 75% yield. So you're going to easily achieve an extra 15 to 20% yield. But at the same time, would you rather clean this bag and a blender carafe with the top clean, or would you rather clean the juicer? That can be cumbersome, right? I'll have another video where I compare this to high-speed juicing directly. So we got this pretty good, and now we're going to go ahead and take a glass, and we're going to pour this amazing, nice and bright celery juice right into this. Look at that nice, rich color. There is no particulate. Oh my God, do we have a full glass? Look at that. I planned that perfectly. This was basically 20 ounces of organic celery, okay? Now, what we want to do is we're going to use another Blendtec nut milk bag or juice bag. We're going to put that in the same 2-liter or 2-quart Anchor Hawking glass measuring jar. And now we're not going to waste the stuff on the lid. We're going to tap that in there. Got it pretty clean. We still got to wash it. Now we're going to go ahead and pour this stuff. Oh my God, look at that. It's just like, to me, this is like dog food slop. This does not look appealing to me. But this is what most of you guys have been doing forever because there has not been the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver to literally save your life until now, okay? So I'm so glad I get to be the first to introduce this technology because it is so new and different than anything else you've ever seen before. All right, so let's go ahead and scoop the rest of this stuff up. And oh man, oh my gosh, I wish you guys were here to do this because this is a pain going around these little flutes and trying to get all the stuff out. Actually, I want to show you guys that. I tried kind of hard. It wasn't like I wasn't trying. But look at the carafe differences, right? That's significantly cleaner than this carafe right here. Once again, easier on the Blendtec. So once again, we're going to go ahead and wring this out. And I don't know if you guys can see the juice, but the juice as it's coming out is totally not even. It's like kind of more light colored, right? Also, I don't know if you noticed, but like I'm noticing a little bit more foam layer on the top. That's because we aerated the juice when we're making it. So once again, I'm just squeezing all the pulp out. And if I went longer, this is not a yield test by any means because the yield would probably be about the same. Can't say the yield would be different. Actually, well, this would show that actually maybe made a little bit more juice just because there's a lot of air actually dissolved in there. And I could show, actually, I'll show you guys later how to remove the dissolved air inside your juice that you made with the Vitamix, which is not going to be to the extent that's going to happen in the Blendtec. All right, so once again, we're going to fold this over. Super simple, super easy. Even a child could do this. I want to get my nephew doing this, juicing with the Blendtec bag. Super simple, super easy. And look at this. When you're done, all you got to do is turn this bag inside out. And all the pulp drops right out. This is super easy to use, super easy to clean. Look at all that pulp. Just drop right out. This looks really cool. It reminds me of Grimace. I don't know, for some reason. Anyways, that's all the pulp. And let's go ahead and pour that into a jar so you guys can see the difference. All right. All right, so here's the two. You could clearly see the air bubbles on the top of the Vitamix, a lot more air bubbles, right? We don't want air bubbles. In addition, this is a lot lighter color because there's probably dissolved air that will bubble out over time. This is a lot darker. And if I tasted these, they would taste significantly different. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this aside and we're gonna move on. But what we will do at the end of this is we're gonna do a time-lapse photography so you guys can see the difference that vacuum blending makes over time. Now, I do encourage you guys, once you make any kind of juice or smoothie in any blender, to drink it as soon as possible afterwards. But if you need to store it, you definitely don't want to store this guy because it already has air in there. And when the air is in there and you're blending, this is a very important point, when the air is in there and you're blending, you're destroying antioxidants. Why are the antioxidants in there in the first place? Are they there for you so that you can get healthier? No, they're in there for the plant to protect the plant from stressors in the environment that it grows in, okay? And when you blend under vacuum in the nutrient preserver, it preserves those antioxidants. So there are 2 to 3 times more of those antioxidants and polyphenols in this celery juice than this. You know, they look a little bit different, but if you taste these, you'll taste the difference. And furthermore, because the antioxidants are in here, if you want to store this juice will store longer without going sour. I know most of you guys that have had a Vitamix made a great big huge smoothie one time and you drank it and then you couldn't finish it all. So you had a little bit left in the carafe. You left it sit out a couple, hours, 4 hours or whatever. And then you go back to drink the smoothie and you're like, oh my God, this tastes horrible. That's the oxidative damage that's occurring to the food. That's simply not gonna happen under vacuum with the Blendtec nutrient preserver. So you guys just learned how to make the world's most nutritious juice in the Blendtec nutrient saver. Now we're going to learn how you can blend tomatoes under vacuum and see for your own eyes significant difference in the blend overall. So we just have some hothouse grown Campari tomatoes, about the same even amounts, and water, which we'll then put into each blender. Now the other cool thing about the Blendtec, because of the propeller blade, these tomatoes will basically drop down and basically get blended on up without you having to use any tamper, making extra things to clean or whatnot. So we're just gonna go ahead and put that in there, and then next we're gonna go ahead and throw the same volume of tomatoes, and this is not a yield test by any means, into the Vitamix. And first I think we will go ahead and blend in the Vitamix, and let's see how this does it. Oh yeah, it's working pretty good. Crank it up to high, full speed. Now keep in mind, the longer you run the Vitamix, the more damage it is and the more aerations it's going to happen. But you need to also make sure that you get the seeds totally ground up so that you extract the most nutrients. So you can see the mixture is almost looking kind of whitish. It's not even that red anymore because of all the dilution of the air into the mixture. We're going to go ahead and turn that off, and we could have fully blended tomatoes, and we're going to go ahead and pour that into the glass, and look at the color on that. All right, one nice tall glass, pretty much perfect. Okay, so I want you guys to compare that to the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver. We're going to go ahead and put the lid on, which is still a little bit wet from last time. And we're going to go ahead and hit the button to start the vacuum pump up. And what's going to happen is you might see a few air bubbles suck out from the bottom. Actually, it's very interesting. I think I'm seeing some air bubbles come out of the top of one of the tomatoes because basically it's pulling all the excess oxygen out. Now, the other thing that you guys don't really know is that Blendtec made significant improvements to the seals in this blender. This is why you should not vacuum blend in a Vitamix, even if you arrange some kind of cheesy pump to do so, because you could actually pull the cheap Chinese grease from the 10-cent Chinese bearings that they're using. Meanwhile, the Blendtec bearings, are 25 to 30 times more expensive and actually used for more precision instruments like in dental offices and physicians. So once this is good, we're going to go ahead and just hit the start button. Start it off kind of slow and then ramp it up. All right, so we got this all turned off, and let's go ahead and pour this mixture out. Once again, to release the vacuum, we're going to go ahead and pull this little tab up on the top, and you could listen carefully. Wow, and that sucks a lot of vacuum right in. It's kind of like, the old school when you open a coffee can, you hear that's like the sign of freshness, something you do not hear in a traditional blender, all right? So let's go ahead and lift this top off, and look at the color on this, guys. This is insane. What is red? Well, red to me in tomatoes equate lycopene. Lycopene is red, that's the red pigment, and there is more lycopene, in my estimation, in this blend because we did not aerate it, we did not oxidize some of those valuable phytonutrients and antioxidant vitamins. So I'm going to hold that up for you guys. Look at that. Which one looks more appetizing? Now, if I drank this, which I'm not going to do, or drink this, number one, I'm drinking all foam layer on this. It's going to taste like I don't know, it's not going to taste good. And this is going to taste a lot more rich and delicious. And when you taste the nutrients in foods and it tastes better to you, that's a sign that there's more nutrients because the phytonutrients have a flavor and a taste. So look at that. That is completely amazing, the difference that the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver can make. So we just did a tomato smoothie, but let's blend something else. Something else that's commonly blended. People blend a lot of bananas. That's my number one sweetener for smoothies, especially frozen ones. And people also blend apples. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put some water, same amounts of water in each blender, one under the vacuum and one not. And we're going to go ahead and peel the banana. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed, but basically when you peel a banana and if you forget to eat it because you peeled it and you didn't eat it, it starts to turn brown very fast. That's the browning, that's the oxidative damage that is occurring to the banana. In addition, apples also brown fairly quickly. So, my goal is to reduce that browning, which will then increase your nutrition. And you're literally going to preserve your nutrients with the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver. We're going to go ahead and take the apple, and we're just going to simply, cut this into quarters. I do like to personally blend my seeds, but that's a personal choice for you guys. And once again, we're going to go ahead and, put a quartered apple in the Blendtec, and we're going to go ahead and put the quartered apple in the Vitamix, and let's see if we could deal with that, all right? So first, we'll blend in the Vitamix. Let's see here, turn it on. All right, let's go ahead and shut this off, and let's see what we got. Pouring out this mixture, the bananas and the apples, right down into the glass. Nice, frothy, thick mixture. Maybe you're drinking margaritas, you want it nice and frothy, but in my opinion, if you're blending fruits, especially antioxidant-rich fruits, this is especially important if you will be blending things like blueberries, because blueberries have a lot more nutrients to lose than a banana in any case, but you guys can see the texture on that. we're going to set that aside. And now we will, once again, our wet down top that we're going to put on. Fully sealed. We're going to put our vacuum dome on the top. We're going to hit the button and let the vacuum do all the work to remove the excess oxygen out of the carafe to make an apple banana smoothie. So one of the things I want to share with you guys that I'm seeing that we couldn't pick up on the camera is that literally the banana, since it's kind of like fluffy in a way, as it's sealing and the vacuum is turned on, I'm seeing literally air bubbles come out of the banana being pulled out because there's air space in the banana that you need to pull out. Not only before you blend, but more importantly, during your blend as the cell walls and the food is basically exposed to air to oxygenate. So let's go ahead and once again turn this pump on and let's go ahead and start this blender up. We're going to pulse it a couple times. And turn it on full and high. All right, so let's go ahead and stop this. Always make sure that if your vacuum pump is not running, just make sure you double pump it. Just press the button twice to turn it back on. Next, I want to show you guys, actually look at the carafe on there. You can see it really concaved in. We're going to go ahead and pull this plug and watch how literally the jar just like sucks out and retains its original shape. So amazing. And that's how strong these carafes are made. So we're going to go ahead and pull that off. And we're going to go ahead and show you guys what this looks like instead. All right. Once again, I really love the corner pouring spouts, much more efficient, and I'm all about efficiency. So you guys can see, look at that. Which one would you rather drink, right? This one has lots of air bubbles. This one does not. This one is actually separating. And you guys are going to get a time lapse of this. Stay to the end. You'll see a time lapse of what this looks like after just several hours. Oh my God, I don't know if the camera could pick that up, but I'm literally seeing this separate right here as I'm sitting here. It's so insane. You can see the air bubbles coming up out of the mixture because there's all this dissolved air because we're adding air when you're blending. Meanwhile, Blendtec is doing the opposite by removing the oxygen. You won't see all the air bubbles that you're going to see in the vacuum blender nutrient preserver. For the final blend today, I'm going to be making like a mock green smoothie. I'm just going to simply use about 6 ounces of baby organic greens as well as some water. This is a very simple recipe. I'm not going to add banana like I normally would and you normally might to drink a smoothie because I really want to test out, the fineness of the consistencies of both machines. This will show us like how much air and air bubbles are trapped in the sieves after we're done blending, okay? So once again, we're just gonna go ahead and pour the water in, approximately even amounts, and we have exactly even amounts because I did weigh it out this time, of the greens. And once again, this is my handy dandy container that I'm using actually as a measuring cup with no blade in the bottom. I really love these guys. All right, there's that. Now let's go ahead and put it on this side, all right? It's hard to fit a square hole into a round carafe. All right, so we got all the greens in there, and first let's go ahead and blend in the Vitamix. It should blend up pretty much without any issues. All right, let's go ahead and turn off the Vitamix. We'll let it sit there for a little bit while we vacuum blend with the nutrient preserver over on this side. Once again, dome top on. Super simple, super easy. This is easy and convenient. And actually, I'm personally glad that they actually have a separate vacuum pump, than some of the other units on the market that actually have a built-in vacuum pump because there could be inherent issues with sucking up, food into the vacuum pump and then your whole blender not working. In addition, should you suck any liquid through this pump because you've overfilled it or something weird's happening, it actually has an outlet port to basically kick out the water. So literally, this is like a sump pump pulling a vacuum, but it also will kick out the water without damaging the pump, which is very important. I haven't seen this feature on any other vacuum blending apparatus designed to date. All right, so now that we've achieved the full vacuum, and I did have to let this run a little bit longer than the other blends because literally all I have in here is some water and lots of the leafy greens, but there's a lot of airspace, and actually most of this container or jar is actually empty. So once again, the pump shut off because we ran it so long. We're gonna go ahead and turn it back on, and now we're gonna vacuum blend. All right, so I think it's been running long enough. We're gonna go ahead and turn off the blender first, and always encourage you guys to shut the blender off first, and then shut off the vacuum pump when you're done, okay? And then once again, we're gonna go ahead and pull this up, and I want you guys to actually notice this time when I pull the vacuum, how literally the mixture kind of sucks back in. You can see, whoa, there's a lot of air bubbles in there. I mean, there's about as much as the Vitamix, right now. But watch this. Where'd those air bubbles go? They disappeared like magic. All right. So now we're gonna go ahead and get a sieve, and we will basically be pouring out the mixtures through the sieve. And actually, I think I'll do the Vitamix first here. We'll see what happens. And I mean, you can't really see that well through the smoke carafe, but you could clearly see the amount of bubbles in there. So let's go ahead and pour this out. All right, that's pretty much it. I always like to tap down the sieve, and you guys can see even the almighty Vitamix left some pulp at the bottom, and to make sure we're completely accurate, I have this AccuWeight scale. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and turn that on, and we will go ahead and weigh some of the pulp, which is actually approximately 0.6 is how much that weighed. Right now, over to the Blendtec Nutrient Saver. Pour that out. And if you look in here, there's basically very little, if any, bubbles. Now, this is pretty thick also, so it didn't blend up everything super fine, but we'll see how much pulp left in. As you guys can see, it's straining down. All right, so now I think that's probably pretty much accurate. Let's go ahead and put that on. Oops, and I lost some of it off to the side. So we're reading 1.1. So this actually put about twice as much particulate in to the mixture. Now, if you did run the blender longer, that particulate will be shaved down and make even smaller, so you will have probably less overall. So that's your decision if you want to run the blender longer to kind of get that fractionated up to even finer consistency. Once again, when you're vacuum blending, how long you blend is not as critical as if you're not blending under vacuum, then it is actually very critical. Now, aside from how much grit is inside the mixture, I mean, look at the difference on that. You could see the separation already occurring, what just happened a little while ago on the top, and a big foam layer on the top. And this is a lot deeper, rich green. All right, so as you guys can see, here's the celery juice we made. Then we got the blended tomatoes, blended apple with banana, and the blended greens with the water. And we have 5 senses, right? And the vacuum blending or the Blendtec nutrient preserver preserves more and will give you a more sensory experience, right? I mean, you could clearly see on the video, between, I don't even know, I could just pick one of these, the tomatoes. Look at the separation on the tomatoes. I mean, this mostly looks like water up to a point, then it has a kind of a layering effect, and then it's just really a lot of air bubbles, right? This will gloop if you pour it, and this is the same consistency, right? Viscosity, if you want to call it that, right? It's amazing. So number one, the look is different. This is very important if you make Instagram photos or are some kind of chef and you want the presentation to look perfect, right? The next thing that's gonna be different with the nutrient preserver is the smell, right? I could hold these tomatoes that have been blended in the nutrient preserver up to my nose, and I could clearly smell like, whoa, and I'm not a super smeller, I had a friend that was, but I could smell, okay, wow, that smells like tomatoes. I hold this one up to my nose, I smell that, and the smell is really like muted. You can't really smell it that much, right? And so already, just that alone is amazing. That's why this is a game changer product you need to buy right now before they run out, actually, because they're gonna be out of stock for a little bit after the first run. Now, the other thing that you can't see or smell, because I'm here to do that, is the taste flavor difference. That is completely different, the flavor difference. And I wish, honestly, I wish you guys were here to what I call ETD, experience the difference of the flavor, because this is what sells people the most. I've sold hundreds of vacuum blenders in the past, and I've been allowing and teaching people about the vacuum blenders since they were first on the market. I was the first US retailer to start selling vacuum blenders, and I'm glad to be here to show you guys the best vacuum blender, which is the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver. And the taste is the biggest reason why you will like this. And I cannot, you can't try it until you try it, right? So you gotta buy one of these and try it. Once you try it and you make the foods and prepare the foods under vacuum, you will be like, I'm not going back. But until you experience the difference, you will not clearly understand. I mean, yes, you can see the difference. I can smell the difference. You'll smell the difference. You know, the texture is also different when you're drinking it. So I'm gonna try, which one am I gonna try? I don't know, I'm gonna try the celery juice because that's the most popular one. So this is the Blendtec celery juice that was, you know, strained through the nut milk or juice bag. I mean, there's basically zero bubbles on the top. I mean, the color might look similar to the Vitamix because some items you blend will have a bigger difference in the mixture than not. Since we did remove the fiber, you know, the difference is not showing as great as to the, you know, the colors. So visually they look pretty similar, although you did see a difference once they came out. But I'm gonna go ahead and taste the Blendtec one once again. That's actually a good celery juice. It's actually rather sweet. I juice a lot of celery straight and with items, and actually, I gotta say, that's one of the best celery juices I've ever tasted. And this is the guy that sells juicers for a living, all right? So now we're gonna go ahead and try the Vitamix one, and I never have drank in my life Vitamix celery juice because I know just how not good it is. So let's try this. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I wish you were here to try this. This is a night and day difference. There is no comparison. The Blendtec one was nice and sweet. I gotta do this again to verify my taste buds. Oh yeah, and don't do this if you got COVID. So anyways, with the Blendtec, it's nice and sweet. It actually tastes delicious. Actually, I almost would rather juice like this than actually in a juicer if it's gonna taste this good because of the lack of oxidative damage that's not happening inside the blender carafe. That actually does happen to a much smaller extent on a slow juicer. And when I drink the one made in the Vitamix in full air, I can see why people don't like the celery juice because it actually, I mean, it's the same celery. That's insane. So this one has no flavor, and I taste tad bit of bitterness. If I let this sit longer, it'll even get more bitter because we've lost the antioxidants that protect the juice from degrading further, whereas we kept them in this juice. Oh my gosh, I've never done this before until now, and actually I might have to vacuum blend to make my own personal juices. So yeah, big difference. Once again, I wish you're here to try it. The only way you'll be able to do this is to get the system today so that you can experience the difference tomorrow, or actually when the system is delivered to you. I strongly encourage you guys to have the highest level of health to get this system. Now, the cool thing is, it doesn't end there. This is not just a nutrient preservation system when you're blending, but the pump and some of the included accessories that I will now show you allows you to store your food and preserve your food up to 5 times longer to prevent food waste and to save money. So you guys just learned how to make the most nutritious smoothies in the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver with the jar that fits on a Vitamix. But that's not all you get when you get the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver. It's gonna do much more than preserve the nutrients just when you blend. Even when you don't blend, you can use the nutrient preserver to preserve more nutrients and prevent food waste. And I want to show you guys how easy it is to do it. So once again, we have that vacuum system right here, right? Normally we have this plugged in to the dome to actually use this on top of the blender jar, right? We're gonna simply unplug it, poof, unplug it off the top, and then we're gonna go ahead and replug it in the tube adapter. This tube adapter is essential, and it is included with every Blendtec nutrient preserver. You simply plug this in, and this now allows you to preserve your food up to 5 times longer than you would otherwise by literally sucking out the air. This is not a new concept, right? You guys may already own a Foodsaver. You may already own some other kind of vacuum handheld device that's made in China to do this exact thing. But the thing that's different is that this Blendtec vacuum system pump is made right here in this very factory that I'm standing in. It is the highest quality pump and pulls the most vacuum that I've ever seen in my entire life. And the more oxygen you could get out of blending, which is very critical, but even more so important when you are storing your dry goods, fresh fruits and vegetables, and juices and smoothies, even more importantly, okay? So up here are some of the accessories you will get with the vacuum preserver system, right? You get 6 of these stainless steel lids. I talked about this briefly, but these are the most amazing, safest lids, 100% stainless steel with the removable silicone, easy to clean gaskets. You know, I've used other lids before that the gaskets will wear out, but these will never wear out on you. And this is a very simple and easy to clean design with this thing just to basically get sucked in. And actually, my lunch today, I brought from home, are my organic strawberries that I had pre-cut, and I preserved them under vacuum. So I don't know if you can't really see this on the camera but this lid is literally concave. I guess you could see it on the lid if I pull this off. So I'll pull the vacuum out, and I want you guys to carefully look at the lid. I don't know if you guys could see it. If I had a meter, it would clearly show. Pull it. All right. So now you can see the lid is actually flat and actually concaved when I pulled it. And if I re-vacuumed it, the lid would go concave because literally it's pulling the lid down to remove the excess oxygen. And when that happens, you're pulling all the oxygen out of the air space inside the strawberries, because the strawberries we think is whole or solid. There are actually a lot of cavities and airspace in between all the different cell walls and all that kind of stuff, right? And the amazing thing is if you vacuum seal your berries, they will easily store at least 2 times longer, if not even longer. So I encourage you guys, to prevent food waste. And berries, they're one of the most expensive things you guys will buy. And I know if you're like me, you've bought berries with the best intentions to eat those before they go bad, but they have gone bad and you had to throw them away, or hopefully you composted them. And they cost a lot of money. I mean, a little carton of organic strawberries is like $5, right? Blueberries, $5. I mean, these berries are expensive, so it's imperative that you vacuum store them so that they're good twice as long, so you have more opportunities to eat them. And that's how I like to store things in a jar. But it doesn't just end there. They give you 6 lids, so you have to supply your own mason jars. I like to use the 64 ounce, the 32 ounce, the 24, or even the 16 or the 8 ounce, depending on what I'm storing. If I'm storing a little bit, then I'll use the smaller containers. If I'm storing a lot, I'll use the big containers. And if you have dry goods, such as grains and nuts and seeds, very important, especially on the nuts and seeds, also the grains, to pull out the excess oxygen as you're storing them. They will store longer. They will not go rancid as quickly, when you pull a vacuum on it. And actually, for example, here are some of the most nutritious dried fruits money can buy. This is the Mornamensi cherries or the tart cherries, right? You do not want these babies to oxidize, to lose nutrition, because sometimes you can't eat the whole thing. You might buy them in bulk like I do to save some money. This way you could pre-pack these into little containers, or the little bags, the vacuum bags, some of the best vacuum bags on the market, and suck out the extra oxygen so the food will not be exposed to oxygen, so it will not oxidize the valuable phytonutrients in these berries. So you could really see how it sucked all the extra oxygen and made this literally form-fitting, to the cherries inside. Now the other cool thing is right here, I have some displays for you. Most of you guys might be storing your apples, such as this, in a standard Ziploc bag. You might make one of these for your child to take to school, or maybe for yourself to take to work. You cut them up, and literally just in a few hours, you can see the massive browning that has occurred. The apples will not taste as good, and you're losing nutrition doing them in this way. These same apples were preserved or cut up at the same time, and you could clearly see the difference between oxidized apples and non-oxidized apples. Now the cool thing is, as I just demonstrated in the blender, that happens significantly faster when you're blending things. So do not blend in a traditional Vitamix without the vacuum, is what I would say. But even more important, you want to store things under vacuum, right? Here's another example, another really good example. I make frozen banana sorbet all the time, whether I'm using a blender or a juicer or some other kind of equipment in my kitchen. The big challenge I have, and I hate it so much because I taste the difference. You guys have all had frozen bananas that have been thawed out and they're kind of getting brown, but you use them anyways. They taste off. This, once again, this is a vacuum bag, but we did not pull a vacuum on it. But you could just store this in a regular Ziploc, and you could see the browning that has occurred during these bananas just literally being stored in this bag. But if we look once again at the same bananas bagged at the same time with the vacuum sucked on it, which one would you rather eat? It's kind of like the comparison between the blended smoothie and the nutrient preserved smoothie with the Blendtec, right? Big difference, right? I now store all my bananas under vacuum, actually in these very bags that I have, and I've been testing the bags for like 3 months now. I think I got them about 2 to 3 months ago, and my bananas pretty much just look like this in my freezer, whereas other bananas I put in a Ziploc because I do my own comparisons off camera. I don't even do them for comparisons. I do it because this is how I live. I eat all these natural foods that have a high antioxidant content that will go bad more quickly if you don't pull out the oxygen. Oxygen is the number one detractor of the killer of nutrients. So we want to pull them out when we store our food, even if it's dry goods, or more importantly, when we blend. So that's what this allows you to do. And now I want to give you guys a few demonstrations. We're going to demonstrate the pump in a few different ways. The first of which is going to be really fun because I've been always wanting to do this and I've never done it until now, is actually we're going to blend more water with tomatoes. And now you will clearly see the power of the pump, because we will literally blend the water and the tomatoes, and then we're going to put it in a mason jar. We're going to put a lid on it, and you will instantly see all the air bubbles come out that'll get sucked out by the vacuum in both a vacuum blended but also a non-vacuum blended to see the difference. So let me go ahead and get this set up. All right, so now we're all ready to blend. I'm going to do this concurrently, because we're just going to basically cut this out, but I want to show you guys that I actually am blending in the Vitamix, and then we're going to basically vacuum blend in the Blendtec. So I want to show you guys real quick. You can't see it now because this has been running a little bit, but right when I turn it on, right out of the stem of the top of the tomato, air bubbles were being pulled out because this vacuum is so powerful, literally pulling the extra airspace inside the tomato out. But it can't get it all, so it's critical that this vacuum pump is running as the machine is working, because it allows the oxygen to mix into the mixture, which is immediately pulled out as the vacuum pump is running the entire time you're blending. All right, so we're going to go ahead and stop that, and the pump is still running, which is a good thing. We're going to go ahead and shut off the pump, and once again, we're going to go ahead and pull the vacuum off so you guys can see. Watch it suck right down, and a nice and red consistency like I did earlier, like you guys saw earlier. And then we're going to pour this mixture in. Let's see, we'll fill it up to maybe like 700, I think. Maybe that's 700. And once again, with the Vitamix, lots of bubbles on the top there. We're pouring this mixture in. Look at all the bubbles. We're going to fill that up to the same height. I wish I had taller jars because this is going to be kind of crazy. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to get out another pump, and we're going to actually pull a vacuum on both units. So to do that, all we need to do is take off the dome top that goes on the blender normally, and we're going to go ahead and put on the tube adapter and put it on top. We're going to go ahead and put our special vacuum sealing jar lid on top of the mason jar. All right, so now this is really cool. We're going to go ahead and pull the excess oxygen out of the Vitamix. Now, don't just think, oh, there's air in there when it's blending. I could just pull out the oxygen afterwards, and it's going to be the same exact thing. It will not be the same thing because you already lost the majority of the nutrients, in my opinion, while you're actually blending, not in the after effect. Now, if you want to store this for longer, this is why. I mean, on every smoothie and juice, if I make too much, I will make, batch make them for like the week. I'll make a whole bunch and then I'll basically vacuum them out like this. I've stored my juices easily 5 to 7 days, right? And this is a way you can do food prep one day and store it so it's as fresh as possible later in the week so that you can continue to eat healthy. So let's go ahead and turn this on. Turn this on. Look at that. All the air bubbles are instantly rising to the top. We're pulling out the air bubbles over here, and we're pulling maybe a little bit out here, but I'm going to put those close up so you guys can see the close up and the air bubbles literally leaving out of the tomato that we just blended because it inflated. It added so much air into the mixture, and you could see on this side, yes, there are some air bubbles, but it's not that significant compared to this side where it's pulling a lot more air bubbles out. All right, so these pumps have been running a little bit. And once again, we pull the vacuum on this, and yes, it did pull some air, and and based on the vacuuming, it actually causes some separation to occur even in the vacuum blended smoothie here. But over on the Vitamix side, if we pull this top off, wow, it pops off, and you can see it actually drew some of the air and the smoothie from the container. And you guys can see this clearly separated significantly more than this guy. But if you wanted to drink these later, I would definitely drink this later. I wouldn't drink this one later. But you could see as it first started to run, it pulled out a lot of oxygen and air bubbles out of the smoothie. To me, this does not simply look as good. And at the end of this video, you guys are going to see the time lapse of the differences between the smoothies that we made just a little bit earlier. So now I want to show you guys actually how powerful this Blendtec vacuum pump is by literally crushing a can in one of their vacuum bags. So whether you're going to put food in here, nuts, fruits and vegetables, seeds, dried fruits, even preserve your candy bars if you want to remove the oxygen so you don't get the oxidative damage. But this is literally a testament of how powerful this vacuum pump is, because it'll just crush this can maybe even better than I could. All right, so once again, we got that adapter on. We're just going to put it on the air valve right here at the top. And actually, there's a little line to show you guys where to line it up right on the corner. And we're going to press that down. And you can instantly see this has a nice fast vacuum. You can see the air literally evacuating out of the container, out of the bag. And you can see, if I hold this on really tight, I'm getting some air leakage. Because I'm not holding it. You should always have it against a flat surface. You could literally see that this can is literally being demolished and crushed, smaller and smaller and smaller. Once again, this is the most powerful vacuum pump that I've tested, and we're going to prove that to you guys in just a minute. So check this out, guys. This totally sucked this down, and I want to remind you guys what the original can looked like. This is the original can. It literally crushed it down to half its size just through the power of the suction of the Blendtec vacuum pump. All right, so the next thing I wanted to do was actually compare the amount of vacuum that a Foodsaver, which is world renowned for the vacuum saving of food, I want to compare how much vacuum it pulls in, how much you could raise mercury compared to the Blendtec vacuum pump that's made right here in the USA. This is actually made in China, actually purchased at Costco. And actually Tom Dixon from Blendtec actually recently did a test with this, and he used it once, and now the tube actually does not come out, like it's stuck in there. So like it's a design that's flawed. So I'm not a big fan of this, but nonetheless, we're going to throw up on the screen because I can't test this. I trust Tom. He did a test with this very expensive digital vacuum gauge, and he basically pulled like 9 inches of mercury. Is how powerful this pump is, right? We're going to test the vacuum pump by Blendtec in a second, but I want to also really quick show you guys another pump that is commonly sold like as a hand pump. And this is a really cheap hand pump. We're just going to go ahead and plug this pump in. Conveniently it fits, and I'm going to go ahead and try to hold it in so there's no air leak, and then we're going to pump and see what we get. All right, look at that. I'm pumping as hard as I can. And once again, the Blendtec pump is automatic, so you don't have to pump like this. And I'm wearing myself out really, and I got a leak. Ugh. All right, look, I peaked out at like 10 is where it peaks out at, but it's not consistent. So I'll get up to 10 with this. So actually this pump is even more powerful than the Foodsaver that you guys just saw only goes to like 9 point something, all right? But now, let's go ahead and put that aside. Let's test the Blendtec pump to show you guys how powerful it is. So let's see, we gotta go ahead and remove this cord, put in this cord. And all we gotta do now is not do any pumping, but just simply press the button. And I don't know what it's gonna read. What is it gonna read? This is the first time I tested any vacuum pumps with a meter. And as you guys can see, it's 19.96, 19.97. Oh, is it gonna go a little bit more? 19.99. Hey, that's a good song. 20. So this goes to 20. So that's literally about twice as much as my chintzy hand pump from China, and over double the amount of the Foodsaver that many people buy to save their food. So now I'm gonna give you guys a summary of this episode today. But before I do, I wanna go ahead and give you guys some close-up shots of the time lapse of what the vacuum blended versus unvacuum blended looks like. So surely you guys just saw the visual difference between the vacuum blended versus the non-vacuum blended. Clearly there's separation in both, but there's significantly more separation in the traditional blending with the Vitamix. You know, this changes the taste, changes the texture, also changes the enjoyment that you will have. Maybe you have a child or a family member that just doesn't like smoothies because it tastes off to them. Well, every smoothie traditionally blended will taste off once you taste the vacuum blended smoothie. They taste better, they smell better, they are better all around. And furthermore, I mean, you're gonna save money in the end because now you could preserve all your food so they could store up to 5 times longer. Whether you're making juices, whether you're making smoothies, whether you're storing dry grains, nuts and seeds, or even fruits and vegetables, and more importantly, the berries, like I like to store. So I guess with that, I would like to say that, you know, if you have a Vitamix container, especially if it's the old style handle, what you should literally do is chuck it in the trash. You don't want to deal with that stuff anymore. There's a new solution. The new solution on the block is the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver that's going to preserve your nutrients and preserve your health, and also, of course, is BPA safe. Now, if you guys enjoyed this episode, I encourage you guys to support me and my work by making your purchase with the coupon code right down below this video. You'll get some special money off, and that way I'll get some credit for my work to share with you guys the power of the vacuum blending. You can get the lowest price anywhere. This is available right now in limited quantities. If you're just watching this video right when it comes out, so purchase now if you want to get one. Otherwise, you might be waiting a while because of COVID and supply chain issues. You know, all the parts may not be available to assemble them and get them out to you as quickly as possible. So once again, link is down below this video to purchase your Blendtec Nutrient Preserver. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, want me to do more videos about the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And even more importantly than that, please be sure to share this video around with your friends and family members that have a Vitamix so they could better understand the difference. Of course, you may just buy one of these guys, try it and use it, and then have them come over and taste test it, and then they'll be a convert too, like I am, like many of my friends that I talked about the vacuum blending and how much of a difference it makes. And until they tried it, some of my friends actually had to give them a vacuum blender to use it. And once they tried it, they are not going to go back to traditional blending again. So be sure to share this with people in the Vitamix community so that you can help them to make a difference in their lives, and more importantly, prevent food waste and, of course, potentially save your life and prevent nutrient loss from the foods when you blend it. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below this video so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes that are coming out about every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up or what you'll be learning. I'll be probably doing a lot more videos about the Blendtec Nutrient Preserver because I love it so much. And also be sure to click the bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. The past episodes are a wealth of knowledge, over 500 videos at this time on this YouTube channel dedicated to teach you guys all about the appliances that allow you to eat more fruits and vegetables so that you can get healthier.